PK, and we're on our way to the next Pink concert. And I'm going to talk about um, this is the Offensive Science channel, and I'm going to talk about something that's been in my crawl in terms of science stupidity, and that is the misnomer that people who are transgendered have gender dysphoria. Um, this is basically being sold to for so many reasons. It's partially for profit in the medical industry. I want to tell you that if you're transgender, you don't have gender dysphoria. You are, um, it's a genetic thing. And if you, in the genetics textbook, they have a section about transgendered and intersex children. What they think it comes from is that this is one of the ways someone can become transgendered. So your sex is not just determined um, upon when egg and sperm meet, and whether and those X and Y chromosome meet, or an X and X chromosome. It's also determined by the hormonal wash in the womb, right? And the hormonal wash in the womb turns the baby, and it has some completion. So sometimes when fraternal twins are both in the womb, more than the one fraternal twin will die, right? Because there's competition in the womb for resources. And because of that, there's always a dominant and submissive twin in the womb. And sometimes if they are fraternal twins of opposite genders, the hormonal wash will tilt for the more dominant twin, whether it be a male or female. Now, if the one twin dies, right, the hormonal wash is going to stay. It's going to stay either, towards testosterone or estrogen, and so what ends up happening is that the child comes out with incomplete turning, and it has to do with, from what scientists know, it affects. Basically, what happens is that your body does not meet your brain development. Is what happens. And, at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm going to go there one day to the Memorial Library and show you these stacks. There are two stacks of books about transgender and intersex babies. These were published in the Victorian era when medical books were basically being published as sort of a shock value freak show thing. But some of these were viable medical books, and it was a big curiosity then. And of course, there were no child pornography laws, so there are pictures in these books, medical pictures, where you can see what they did is they took pictures. One of the things they used in photography, they took pictures of the children born with ambiguous genitalia, so they actually had statistical knowledge of how many children were being born with that. And some of the books were published very specifically on just to document that. And then in addition, one of the things that they were really curious about at the time, and this is the emergence of modern medicine, were parents who were dressing their boys as girls or their girls as boys because they said, "Oh, my boy's not a boy; he's a girl." Now, at the time, children didn't have much power in the world, so they would not be the ones saying that I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. It would be the parent saying that. And so there were all these books sort of documenting it and sort of talking about these people being raised. And one of the really interesting things in them is, this was also the dawn of psychology, is some of these children have extreme behavioral problems until the parents started treating them like the opposite gender, or I would say the right gender. Scientists have tried to get the NIH to fund a study on this, and they won't because it's too politically controversial. So for there to be a genetic study on what transgenderism from, it's going to have to be privately funded. And the same thing to finally determine that being gay or lesbian comes from it has a biological basis. Our genetics professor says that it's absolutely necessary. They always told us that as the next generation of scientists or doctors are going to have to do this because, they need to do this to protect LGBTQ populations. So, but as far as gender dysphoria, I know about it because I was, I'm going to get closer so people, because it might upset people, but I was, sexually abused by a babysitter, male babysitter, who's also a Sunday school teacher for 3 years. And so I ended up with gender dysphoria. What gender dysphoria actually is people becoming afraid of people of their own gender because they have been victimized by them, they've been raped by it, so they're afraid that other men are going to do it. And this wasn't with all men, my male friends were, I could be friends with really macho men because their signaling was fully male. And we all know that this sort of stuff is on the spectrum, that, our sort of attraction. We have different degrees of same sex or different sex attraction. For some reason, we don't know. And at college, at university, I grew up in the south side of Chicago, so there was a lot more men who were macho. But there's a lot more, I guess what you call cults at a university. And when those guys trying to be friends with me, boom, it went off. I thought that what they were trying to do was have a same-sex relationship with me. And this wasn't that I was homophobic, because one of the things that gender dysphoria counseling does is it helps you determine if you are straight, gay, or transgender. And one of the reasons that they do that is because when someone has been victimized by a person of the same sex and they are attracted to people of the same sex, they can become suicidal because they can't fulfill they can't have a more fulfilling life. I'm sorry that I'm doing this, but I'm looking at the time on the recorder, leaning forward like a weirdo. But they have to get over it. And so one of the ways that the counseling works is that they don't just have you in the counseling. They have a session where they talk to childhood friends and they ask certain things about you, like how did he act before the incident, how did he act after. And they had mine started in 3rd grade, and so they start to ask friends, and friends notice differences. And one of the big things was very early on, I was an avid baseball card collector and very much into baseball. I had just completely male traits before gender behaviors before I went through the abuse. And then it changed because I was afraid to have friendships with men because I thought that they wanted sex. I didn't think that they wanted a friendship. And I was friends mostly with women. So you sort of work through that, and the psychiatrist will determine, through some of these things, if you are straight or gay, and they basically tell you that it's going to be very painful because they may tell you that, hey, you're not straight. You need to work through it and understand that you are gay or lesbian, because one of the big things that happens is that if you've been, I think I said that if you've been abused by someone of the same sex and then you're afraid to couple with somebody, you're just going to have a miserable life. Being able to attach to someone who you really care about. It's very dangerous to assign this psychological disorder, which is curable through counseling, to children especially, and then to people who don't have a psychological disorder as well. Because one of the ways it's dangerous is because people might start reading on their own what it's about, and they're going to start to think that they have things going on in their life that are non-existent, right? And also one of the problems with assigning gender dysphoria to transgender people, Blair White, the conservative transgender person, had a debate online about transgender people who don't want to get operations. That is a result of gender dysphoria counseling, because that is what transgender people want, right? They want to live a normal life as a woman. They want to live a normal life as a man. And I think if you've ever met anybody who, maybe I'll have to make a different video about some of my personal experiences with people like that. But you want to go through the full transition. You don't want to be in between, right? And if you think that what's happening to you has anything to do with psychology and not your biology, you are not going to be assured in forcing your way through to the end of where you want to go, where you want to be. So this is a very dangerous diagnosis. I know Rainey Aronson from Frontline. She's science stupid. She promoted this. Maybe I'll make another video about that. But you don't have a psychological disorder if you're transgender.